Hey guys, it's me, Jay. I wanted to send my condolences out to the victims of the Walmart shooting in El Paso, excuse me, in El Paso, Texas today. It's incredible, really sad that once again we are gathered to mourn victims of yet another attack. Seems like every time we turn around, there's attack after attack going on. And these guys, I feel like they just do it because they really love Donald Trump. They really are devoted to his political ideology of hatred and bigotry. You know, when this was being done 5, 10, 15 years ago, after especially after 9/11, in the name of Islam, people were like, "Oh, well, why doesn't Muslim people come out and they condemn the attacks perpetrated in the name of their faith?" And that was understandable, but I think it's time for MAGA supporters, the ones who aren't extremists, to finally come out and condemn the followers of their political ideology, because their political ideology of making America great again, as emboldened on their hats, doesn't include many people who are different than they are. And you see Trump at these rallies, he amps these people up, being anti-immigrant, like with Ilhan Omar and saying send her back, screaming at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying send her back. And it's just like, it's very vitriolic and it's very divisive. People said that the President Obama was divisive. I think President Obama went out of his way to try to bring the country together. I mean, hey, we didn't even get the real Obamacare. We got some nonsense with a high copay. Why? Because he didn't want to offend the Republicans too much. He went out of his way to accommodate them and to kowtow to them during the whole Tea Party stuff. That they were constantly blocking everything he was trying to do and calling him a liar during the State of the Union address. But President Trump constantly gets out there and lets us know that it's an us against them mentality. It's his MAGA tribe and MAGA supporters against everyone else, even people in his own party that don't agree with him. They don't agree with that, to use the Hebrew phrase, ashkafa, his ideology. You know what I mean? They don't. They think that America is a nation that should be inclusive and not exclusive. That they say that goes against the spirit of America, which has always welcomed in immigrants. Ellis Island was built for immigrants. Now, whether you think that it should come in illegally or not is a different debate entirely. But at the same time, having rallies that chant of people chanting send her back," and telling for these women that they should go back to their countries really amps up people that already suffer from mental illness. So now they all they need is a religious or a political ideology to attach themselves to and access to violence in order to commit vicious and heinous crimes. And he went to a place just like with the New Zealand shooter went to that mosque, or the anti-Semitic shooters went to that synagogue. This xenophobic shooter, anti-Mexican, went to a place where he knew a lot of Mexican people would be, Walmart, at very cheap prices for items, and it's back to school time almost in Texas. So he knew that they would be there. So that he knew this was the perfect place for him to commit his atrocity. And of course, this is going to turn into uh, an anti-gun thing like Sandy Hook, you know, or like Aurora, or like Tucson, or like San Bernardino, or like Columbine. Just go on and on and on. Virginia Tech. This is going to turn into one of those where the left will say that we have to ban guns, the right will say, well, we have to ban video games and violent things like Fortnite and Call of Duty. I'm I'm pro Second Amendment. I believe in the Second Amendment, so I wouldn't say to ban guns. Better background checks would be more helpful. You shouldn't be able to just walk into any store and purchase a very dangerous firearm that could kill a lot of people. But of course, they're not going to condemn uh, the guns. They're going to say that stupid phrase they always say, which is guns don't kill people, people kill people. Well, people use guns to kill people. And before guns were invented, yes, people killed other people, sure. The Crusades, other wars, but they didn't walk into open markets and start slaughtering random people. That just started happening now with assault rifles. So don't act so obtuse. Don't act like you don't know what they're talking about when they say that we need to get with the modern civilized world, like Europe and Australia and New Zealand, and do something about guns. And not only do something about guns, but do something about hateful ideologies. Now, I was having a conversation with someone on Facebook earlier today before the shooting happened. We're talking about the new Disney Plus streaming service that's coming out in 2019. And me and this person, I said, man, you're going to really love it. It's going to be all the Disney stuff from all the time they were created way back in the 20s. And she said all the stuff, even Song of the South that was racist, even the Donald Duck cartoons from World War II that was racist, that showed him giving the Heil Hitler sign. I said, no, probably not, because it was politically correct. And she said, well, I'm sick of, she gave the typical response that people always give. She's not a right winger, she's a left winger. But she gave the typical response that people always give. Well, I'm sick of political correctness. I'm tired of political correctness. You can't even, um, you make the mistake of calling a transgender he, and you're automatically thrown into Facebook jail. You know what I mean? But like, I get that too. But at the same time, all freedom has consequences, and freedom of speech, First Amendment rights have consequences too. And one of those unfortunate consequences is that political hate teachers like Alex Jones and like um and, and rebel media and stuff, people that are really anti-immigrant can also have a platform. Now, you wanted free speech? Here's your free speech, and they get a platform. And what they do is people like them and Tucker Carlson, they get into the minds of the young, impressionable, especially males, who they spend a lot of time online. And they listen to these guys' lectures, and a lot of them become radicalized through this medium. And you can't just say, well, ban them all. Like, uh, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube wanted to do. They banned them, but then they said, well, what about free speech? You know what I mean? So, and they even took it to the government. And Ted Cruz and Dennis Prager argued on their behalf. But now we're seeing a consequence of free speech. And one of those consequences of free speech is the radicalization of young people politically, like this young person who was so. I can almost bet that he was a fan of Stefan Molyneux, that he was a fan of Candace Owens, he was a fan of Alex Jones, he was a fan of probably of all these people. Who constantly get on here and preach the sky is falling because immigrants are coming to America. You know what I mean? So he just like people, militants in ISIS can be indoctrinated because they listen to radical Islamic clerics every day. So too can these individuals become radicalized because a lot of these folks, they don't have families, they don't have people in their lives who love them. They suffer from depression, they suffer from mental illness, and they look at these political figures like Donald Trump and Candace Owens and Stefan Molyneux and Glenn Beck and Tucker Carlson. They look at them as heroes. To them, it's sort of like what Eminem said. Eminem in his song he had out years ago called "Sing for the Moment." He said, "We're nothing to you, but we're the fucking shit in their eyes." You know what I mean? So he was talking about the rappers, but it's like that with political icons too. You know what I mean? Like you might become so enthralled with the political philosophy of, say, a Stefan Molyneux or Ben Shapiro that you might say, or Donald Trump, you might say, well, if Donald Trump wants me to do this, I'm gonna carry out my ideology of hate towards any certain number of group. You know? And unfortunately, it doesn't really work the other way around. People say like, "Oh well, the left has Antifa," and they commit acts of violence. Look what they did to Andy Ngo. They threw a milkshake in his face. Yeah, but with the exception of the Republican baseball game way back in 2016, when was the last time you saw a leftist try to shoot up any place? They were never. These are not. The left doesn't do this kind of stuff. The left engages in you intellectually. They challenge you to debate. They go to the ballot box. They vote. They don't commit acts of violence. Not in America anyway. Now, other countries, Colombia, Venezuela, yeah, the left commits acts of violence, but not here in the United States. Here in the United States, the left is like pussycats. They very tamed. you know, they don't do that kind of stuff. You know, they're too busy going to Starbucks and eating kale and practicing yoga and listening to Young Turks and Air America and Sam Cedar and uh, trying ethnic food, particularly Pakistani and Indian foods, to do any of that stuff. You know what I mean? They're too busy apologizing for white privilege and male privilege and going to gay pride parades and all that. They're not interested in in shooting up these places. The left is different. You know, just different. Leftist political culture is centered in rhetoric, not in violence. which is an interesting like religious parallel too, because like you can look at it like Islam versus Christianity, because Christianity's thing is centered in rhetoric too. Not acts of violence. They want to convert you to their faith as well, but they don't want to do it through force. You know, so the right is kind of like that too politically, where they want you to believe that too, but they'll do it through force. They'll do it through violence. The left is not going to do it through violence. The left is going to convert you through rhetoric and to make you think. Anyway, guys, peace. Condolences to the 18. I think it was the 18 victims in this Walmart attack. Man, you ain't even safe in Walmart anymore. Why am I for the Second Amendment? Um, because I believe that uh, if in a, that if a person has a gun, if a bad person has a gun, the only thing that could stop him is a good person with a gun. And while I believe in limiting gun rights, I don't believe in banning gun rights altogether. Is that good enough for you, Lisa? And I think it's easier for governments to control you if you don't have weapons um, than it is if you did. I think uh, the people that tyranny resisted tyranny in self-defense with self-defense tactics. I don't think I don't think uh, they did it through talking about it in debate. Unfortunately, every movement that we've had in this country that's been progressive has either come one of two ways: the ballot or the bullet box. And you can't really stop crazy maniacs in the bullet box. You got to stop them with a bullet. In a ballot box, you got to stop them with a bullet. And if someone comes to kill you, you have the right to defend yourself. So I think the Second Amendment is a right of self-defense, and it should not be done away with. The founding fathers, in their wisdom, um, understood that if you take away people's guns and the right to defend their rights, none of the other rights matter, because they can they can take away your freedom of religion, they can take away your freedom of choice, they can take away your freedom of protest easily by force if you can't defend yourself. And if we say, well, only the police should have guns, but they're the ones brutalizing us in minority communities. So shouldn't we have the right to defend ourselves as well? You know, I look at the Second Amendment in that way. I think abolishing it is foolish, because the people who are bad people, they're not going to care that having guns is against the law. They're going to buy them anyway on the black market. So what difference does it make? You might as well have law-abiding citizens own guns. You know, better background checks, Yes, I agree with it. Checking to see if people are mentally ill or mentally unstable. Yes, I agree with it. But eliminating the Second Amendment altogether is not going to. It's not going to go over well. This is a part of American society. Love it or hate it, that is a fundamental part of American society. American culture is very gun oriented. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we live in New York City. In New York City, there's no self defense laws, and guns are very limited to get legally. But yet, there's tons of gun violence. So the idea that eliminating guns altogether nationally is going to solve this gun crisis is ludicrous. It's stupid to think that. So that's my opinion on the Second Amendment, Lisa. Um, yeah, I mean, it's controversial. It's something that I part ways with a lot of my liberal friends, my Democratic friends on, because it's largely to a Republican issue, and um, a lot of the left, they want to eliminate guns altogether, pass laws that will eliminate legal gun ownership altogether. I don't. First of all, I think it's never gonna happen. You know what I mean? Because for an American to give up his gun, he just as soon give up his cheeseburger. Or his son. Never gonna give up his guns. United States, come on. If you think that, you don't know anything about this country. It would just cause another civil war. And it could be beneficial to people of color as well, because people of color um, are brutalized every day by fascists. And what's the best way to defend against a fascist? It's not to debate them. It's not to virtue signal or anything like that. It's to fight them. Fight them with sometimes violence is necessary. And that's why I believe in, in the Second Amendment, and I believe in gun ownership. And I think more citizens should be educated on firearm responsibility. You know, it's like with weed. Uh, you might not like to smoke weed, but you can't deny that the government shouldn't be involved and tell you what to do with your life. And likewise with gun ownership, if you have a license to own a gun and you qualify to own one, and wherever you live in the state that you live is legal, you should be allowed to own a firearm. Same thing. I personally am pro-life. I take a pro-life position, but um, I I would never take away a woman's right to uh, legally have an abortion and try to overturn Roe v. Wade. So I would never try to overturn the Second Amendment, because our republic is built on personal freedom and personal responsibility. We, the government, should not be allowed to tell us what to do with our money, with our time, with our children, with our body. They do, but they shouldn't be allowed. The founders did not envision a country such as that. You know, when they broke away from Great Britain in 1776, they envisioned a free society, an educated society. Unfortunately, we have a free society, but we don't have an educated society. And because of that, we don't have the second one. We soon won't have the first one. Yeah, we soon won't have the first one because you know, freedom comes responsibility, as Spider-Man said. And if you don't have one, you can't have the other. And as society becomes more, as society becomes more reckless with our freedoms, we're going to lose them. We're going to lose them. We're going to lose not only this first, Second Amendment, but the First Amendment, hell, the Fourth Amendment. We're going to lose them all. The Constitution is going to be toilet paper because we we don't cherish our freedoms in this country. We take them for granted, and when you take something for granted, um, you tend to lose it. Plus, we got to stay on top for at least another 40 years. I mean, hell, who's gonna take care of the Israelis? Somebody got to take care of them, right? As they wage yet another war in the Middle East. Oh, man. Oh, man. Yeah, we got to take care of our friends, right? Little brother. But question is, will Moshe and Avi pick up a gun to defend uh, John and Karen? I don't think. I don't think Sarah and Moshe even care about John or Karen. They don't. They don't. We care about them, but they don't care about us. It's a one-sided, one-sided debate, a one-sided um, one-sided love. I would love to see one day um, uh, somebody from the IDF or the Mossad, Israel Secret Service. I would love to see them come here to defend us. If we have a war with Venezuela, right? One of our neighbors, it's time for
Excuse me. Can did they shoot at people in
it's time for uh, the Israelis to defend. If we have a war with Venezuela, it's time for the Israelis to defend us. Okay, time for Israel to invade Venezuela. You might say, well, what does Venezuela have to do with over there? Well, what do we have to do with Iran? Why should we invade Iran? You know what I mean? So I think a little payback for our friend in the Middle East, because as Dionne Warwick said, that's what friends are for. Oh my God. Yeah, right. We go into a civil war. What are you gonna do then? We're gonna have a civil war one soon. We're gonna have one. You know, people are so Trump maniac, MAGA people, maniac, MAGA people. so 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 brainwashed by 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 this this person, this political personality. It reminds me of um right? He reminds me of like a wrestler. You know what I mean? Like he's like Hulk Hogan. Like he's like he go out there and do one of these, right? and then and then his fan base would be like, Trump, we love you, we love you, we love you. No, you know what I mean? Like they love him. You know what I mean? Or like one of those revivalist preachers, like Billy Graham or whatever. Like he just says something and people be like, oh, Trump. yeah, yeah. Like you just, oh, funny. He's a funny guy, man. It's funny. It's sad, guys, but it's funny, man. At the same time, because it's sad because people are dying. You know, wars are looming everywhere in the world, and governments are so close to taking away our freedoms. You know, our freedom to speak, our freedom to express our opinion. And that's why things like YouTube is very important, man.
You have to go to the right there, man.
But anyway, guys, condolences to the people in El Paso, and peace to you guys. Good night. You know, I hope you had a beautiful Saturday with your family. You know, I wasn't caught up in this drama, watching CNN all day long, watching Chris Como go back and forth with Don Lemon and this one and that one and the talking heads and trying to explain the situation. Because you know how this stuff goes down, happening with the Vegas shooting, with San Diego. You know, it happens all the time. Peace.